All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
2845. So y'all, I just noticed that I've just been walking through here and I was on mute the whole time. But you know what? I'm gonna still upload it.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs.
Oh crap.
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Like I said, it's your boy Razor. And I entered the password wrong, but I was on mute at the beginning, so you saw me go through some stuff. Alright, I'm in it right this time. I got the bucket, and then I found the figurine.
But
So,
Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
that's where we're at.
Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Just gets
Was
like
the
crazy
bucket
dark.
guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Glad we found that figurine though, that was cool. And all the little stuff on the walls. And then I can open up a door now. Well, at least that door. Alright. Where are we going? Let's see.
The elevator raced downward. plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket.
Thank God I got this
Soothing
bucket.
him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
See, the key to this game is the bucket. What does this mean? Okay, alright.
Stanley and the bucket
God.
walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Let's try
Although
this
this
out.
passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
Chill, Jalen. Chill, brother.
No, I don't want to go that way.
But of course, Stanley and the bucket thought better of it and realized they simply had too much to live for.
That is true.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Camera time.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock.
What's that one right
Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
there? Alright, let's see what they give us.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind.
Alright, here we go.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
bucket. Alright.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Oh. I got the bucket now, so let's see what happens. I got the bucket, so.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over? Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support.
Can I really leave this time? No. I never get to leave.
Wait, what was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket. needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room. But at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Can I ever leave here without the bucket? That's the thing. Maybe it won't ever let me leave when I got the bucket. Maybe I should grab the...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
So this time we're going to take the escape room. We're going to see.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Y'all knew I was going to try to open up another door. Alright. It's not going to happen.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
See how they
Was the
switch it up?
bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Let's go, Mr. Bucket. Let's go ride. Let's leave this place. Like and subscribe if you get a chance. Gonna be some more games coming. Got a few on my wish list to play, so definitely gonna see that.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Now, I'm going this way.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
I got the bucket with me.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Does the hallway even end? But the end is never the end. Oh, Lord.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket.
Be
but what
crushed.
use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a
That's
bucket
crucial.
everywhere.
That's crazy. Put it right in front of me.
Stanley.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
What? The bucket saved me.
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this
This
one
is
stood
crazy.
above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
This bucket, I can't dive with this bucket. I knew what I was doing when I walked through there. Hmm.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his
Oh,
own?
wow.
Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
A bucket with 2 handles. 25 buckets. The euphoria from exposure to this many buckets at once. Man, that must have been powerful. I'm taking this bucket. I can't. Oh, wow. Buckets go a long way back, y'all, if you didn't know. That's cool.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Give me my bucket back. Alright.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket.
Oh
We can
my
save
God.
the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Did they really kill me? No way. And this is the first time too. I got a lady narrator, so that's pretty cool. Still alive, still in this office working.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply... Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Let's see. I want to find the other
Stanley
statues.
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Definitely so.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
That's the way to that. Now,
And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door.
we're gonna go this way.
Oh, good Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this
Wow.
place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket
And
isn't even from the original
now I'm
Stanley
crazy
Parable.
or something?
It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the adventure line? We could make the adventure line go somewhere new. Yes, yes,
Oh, look at
that's
the
what
truck
the
moving.
fans want. Let's do it. Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Oh my God.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue? Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Lord.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Talking about the bucket. Actually, I do like the line thing for some reason. I'm
Don't
glad
you
it's
get it,
back.
Stanley? We need to get rid
Look
of
as
the
it goes
bucket.
up the stairs.
That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
Oh,
Go
well,
ahead
let's
now,
try the
Stanley.
bucket.
Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
Yeah. Let's open up this door.
Now
They're
listen
gonna-
to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry up.
Sorry, y'all. Can't do it.
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
He gave that Bucket Destroyer a great tribute. See? And I'm back, but I'm not going to destroy my bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Do I want to grab the bucket? Which way would I take?
Stanley picked
Alright.
up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
I can't go back. Okay. Alright, let's go. Yeah, I know I probably could open up this What's in here? Nothing.
Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you? The aura of jealousy? It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket. I can really feel it
Wow.
now. It's a bucket. It belongs in a broom closet. That's what the broom closet is trying to say here. It's supposed to go with the other cleaning supplies. Good for you, Stanley.
Nope.
Don't give in. Don't. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom for me in difficult
Supposed
times.
to lead me
such as
out of
these.
here.
He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket.
Oh my God.
Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come
Where'd
from
my
this.
bucket go
Who
to?
knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious.
Oh,
He exclaimed.
no.
Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him. Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket. Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket. Come to me, Stanley. Find me. He had to find the bucket. He had to
This is
return
crazy.
to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all
The
along.
bucket's inside of me?
It was incredibly painful.
Whoa.
Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
This bucket
This
has
is a
too much
story
power.
of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course,
she took my
he'd gone
bucket.
mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him. Perhaps he didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront.
Lord,
at
she's
work.
gonna leave me on
But
the
her
road.
bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself. My life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
That's crazy. And you know what, we're gonna end it here. I just like jumping into this game, doing this content right now. I got some other stuff coming. So, you like and subscribe, but this is always just something fun to play every so often and just see how the outcome is. I'm gonna try to find them other figurines and stuff on my own, not look at anything. So, from 427, the office 427, I'm gonna holler at y'all. Take it easy and check out my next episode. Peace.